In the 4th year of chasing after Anthony, he had grown utterly fed up with me. All because I accidentally broke his precious pearl earrings, he banished me to a foreign country for 3 years. 3 years later, I was finally brought back to my homeland. Everyone assumed I would continue to cling to him, including Anthony himself. He stared at me coldly, his eyes brimming with suspicion. "Emily, you're engaged to Sophia. You'd better stay away from us. If you dare to bother us again, I won't hesitate to teach you a lesson." I nodded obediently and returned the keepsake his grandmother had given me years ago. Then I silently counted down the days until my wedding. He didn't know that. To return home and escape that hellhole, I had agreed to my father's condition, to marry Wilson's comatose son to bring good fortune to the family. From now on, I will never bother him again. But on the day of my wedding, this man who had always been so calm and composed, the heir to the Smith family, rushed to me, trembling all over, disregarding his status. "Emily, how could you abandon me?" On the day I returned home, covered in wounds, I had just stepped off the plane, when my father's assistant took me to Anthony to apologize. Along the way, the assistant kept relaying my father's teachings to me. "Miss, this time when you return, you must not bother Anthony again, and you must not act so fiercely and jealous toward Miss Sophia, after suffering so much abroad for all these years. You should know this man's methods. He is not someone you can afford to covet." I nervously clutched the item in my pocket. I stammered, "No, I won't actually." They were all overthinking it. These past few years, I've already learned my lesson. Because of Sophia's tears, Anthony sent me abroad, in that war-torn region. I was deceived, trafficked, and bullied. I nearly died multiple times because I couldn't pay the protection fee. Out of fear of Anthony, my father dared not give me a single penny. Those people saw no value left in me, and even forcibly removed one of my kidneys. That day, I lay in a filthy, makeshift operating room, screaming in agony all night long. It was also that day I completely severed all ties with Anthony. I also fully understood Anthony's favoritism toward Sophia, and the vast difference between him and me. How could I dare to think of him again? How could I dare to compete with his beloved Sophia? When I arrived at the Smith Group president's office, Anthony was in a meeting. The secretary gave me a meaningful glance and told us to wait outside, but it might take a while. My father's assistant immediately bowed and said it was no problem. We could wait as long as needed. The Smith Group building was warm and comfortable all year round. But for some reason, the air conditioning in the reception area was broken today. In November, New York was already cold enough to cut through the skin. I boarded the plane like a refugee, wearing only a thin coat. The tea that finally arrived after a long wait was also cold. I curled up in my seat, shivering uncontrollably. The frostbite on my hands and feet began to turn red and itch. Actually, I used to be completely unaffected by the cold. In the dead of winter, to give Anthony, who had a severe cold, a sip of hot water, I would hold a cold mineral water bottle against my chest to warm it up for him. Anthony saw what I was doing and disapprovingly said, "Emily, girls don't need to do that." I blinked and said, "Girls don't need to do that." But I just wanted him to have a sip of hot water so he wouldn't feel so miserable. At that time, I was so passionate. My body and heart were filled with warmth. Unlike now, after spending 3 years in a slum abroad, not only has it ruined my body. Every winter, my hands and feet are covered in frostbite. Taking a breath of cold air can make me cough for half a month. My heart feels as old as an 80-year-old. I can't feel passionate anymore. Perhaps from being frozen too long, I seem to have a slight fever. This battered body is what I am now. Useless. Fortunately, before I fainted from the pain, Anthony finally took pity on me and agreed to see me. When I pushed open the door to Anthony's executive office, someone was speaking inside. It was the secretary who had greeted us earlier, stubbornly insisting to Anthony. It was me who deliberately turned off their air conditioning. And it was also me who delayed telling you until now. I just wanted to vent my anger for Sophia. Why should she be sent abroad for 3 years just because she bullied someone? Why should her past mistakes be forgiven? If you care about her, feel free to fire me to vent your anger. Anthony, don't. Jessica was just trying to protect me. Please don't blame her. It was Sophia's pleading voice. Anthony laughed softly, Take it out on her, HMPH. She doesn't deserve it. I only regret not punishing her harshly enough back then. How dare she come back like this? My heart felt like it had been punched. The pain made me want to bend over. A bitter smile curled at the corners of my lips. So all the suffering I endured. In Anthony's eyes, it still wasn't enough. This must be the punishment, punishing the foolish me of the past. How dare I? So arrogant, dare to approach him. As Anthony spoke these words, he turned around and saw me. His eyes widened in disbelief. Yes, I've changed so much. 3 years ago, I was the radiant, fearless eldest daughter of the Johnson family. Now I'm weak, haggard, and weathered, like a ghost who's escaped from hell. The tense atmosphere was quickly broken by Sophia. She covered her small mouth and suppressed her voice. Emily, how did you let yourself get like this? Even if you want Anthony to feel sorry for you, there's no need to act so pathetic. Sophia was still as calculating as ever. But this time, I didn't get angry like I used to. Then argue and be punished and despised by Anthony. I just looked at Anthony and smiled faintly. Anthony, whether you believe me or not, I didn't put on a show. Anthony raised his eyebrows slightly. It seemed like he didn't care, yet it also seemed like he was furious. I wish you weren't putting on a show. I sent you out there to punish you. Emily, after 3 years away, you should know the consequences of continuing to cling to me and hurt Sophia. Don't bother me anymore, or I won't hesitate to teach you another lesson. My eyes stung and swelled, but not a single tear fell. Anthony, I won't do it anymore. I dare not. I pulled out the item I'd been hiding in my pocket and said solemnly, I won't do it anymore. Anthony, I swear. If I ever dare to bother you again, let me die without a proper burial. After saying that, I handed the item to him. Here, take this back. It was a translucent emerald bracelet that Anthony's grandmother had given me when she was still alive. It was a token symbolizing the family's daughter-in-law. I had accepted it without knowing any better back then, but I knew. Its rightful owner had never been me. Anthony didn't take it. He stared at me coldly. His lips tightly pursed. He seemed even angrier, but I didn't know what I had done to upset him. I hesitated for a moment. Then I placed the bracelet in Sophia's hand. I had accidentally broken one of her necklaces. Now I was giving her a bracelet in return, so we were even. Miss, your hand. My assistant, who had been following me, gasped. Anthony's gaze also shifted to my hands. If one could hide one's appearance, how could one hide these hands? They were covered in wounds and frostbite. Several fingernails had even been pulled out. They hadn't grown back yet. These hands were truly ugly. I quickly stuffed them back into my pocket. Then, facing Anthony's stern face, I gave him an apologetic smile. I'm sorry, Anthony. My clinging over the past few years must have troubled you. It was my youth and ignorance that caused you pain. I truly won't do it again. Dad said I had to come today. I must apologize to Anthony properly. I must not provoke him again. The old me hated hearing him speak. But the new me has learned my lesson, to show Anthony my sincerity. After saying that, I bowed deeply to him 3 times. Then it was Sophia's turn. She was the apple of Anthony's eye. So I had to apologize properly as well. Sophia, I'm sorry. I was too impulsive back then and accidentally broke your mother's keepsake. Now I'm giving you this bracelet as compensation. I hope you can forgive me. Actually, I didn't break it, but the truth doesn't matter anymore. I bowed deeply 3 times to her as well. Rest assured. I promise I'll never appear in your or Anthony's life again. Really, never again. After saying that, I didn't linger and turned to leave, but before I could take a few steps, I heard a deafening crash behind me. It sounded like something had shattered, but it probably had nothing to do with me. I had done exactly as Anthony wanted. He shouldn't be angry with me anymore. Maybe he really was just cold. When I got home, I started running a fever. When I finally woke up 3 days later, I was still dazed. My half-sister Isabella was standing by my bed. When she saw me open my eyes, she looked disappointed and said, "You're a bitch with a long life. You really thought you were going to die. I didn't expect you to come back to life." She used to say that to me, and I would get so angry that I would hit her. But now, I just lay in bed, staring blankly. The past 3 years seemed to have drained me of all my arrogance and spirit. Isabella gave me a mocking look and then proudly touched the diamond necklace around her neck. I recognized it as my mother's heirloom. It was the last thing my mother had left me. Once upon a time, I guarded them like a fierce little lion, not letting Isabella or her mother come near. Anthony was always there to back me up, so Isabella and her mother never dared to touch them. But now, I can't even protect them. I can't even protect myself. Mom, I'm so useless. Seeing the pain on my face, Isabella laughed even harder. So Sophia was right. You really have become as obedient as a dog. Emily, you're just as stupid as your dead mother. Back then, your mother couldn't compare to mine. Back then, you were so competitive, always comparing yourself to me, always trying to put me down, saying you'd marry the most powerful Anthony in New York to make our whole family look good. But now, not only can you not marry Anthony, you're marrying that vegetable from the Wilson family instead. I heard he's been in a coma for almost 3 years. What if, by some accident, you kill him after marrying him? Wouldn't his whole family kill you? I heard that the Wilson family in Los Angeles is even more terrifying than the Smith family. Emily, may you find your own happiness. Dad said he'll marry you off in half a month. Ha ha ha, Emily, you're really useless. I lay in bed and couldn't help but shed tears. Yes, I'm really useless. But it's better this way. Marrying a vegetable is better than staying here. It left me terrified and breathless. My body took a week to recover. Dad said that since I had offended Anthony, he wouldn't make a big deal about my marriage. He told me to stay home and prepare for the wedding and not to go out. I knew he was afraid I'd get into trouble again and upset Anthony. I was willing to comply. Now, I hate crowds. I don't like going out either. But I never expected that even if I stayed home, I would still run into Anthony. That day happened to be Isabella's birthday party. As my father's true favorite, she always wanted to invite the entire New York high society to her birthday parties. This time was no exception. Almost everyone in the circle was there. Even Anthony, who rarely attended such events, showed up. The courtyard was bustling with activity, and I stayed in the corner, blending into the background. Knowing that I had offended Anthony, everyone else also avoided me. Only my mother's relatives came over to say a few words to me. Lucas is my cousin. But ever since my mother passed away, my uncle and aunt haven't liked my father. As a result, they don't like me either. Our relationship has gradually grown distant. But I never expected him to come over and greet me today. In the crowd, Anthony, dressed in a sharp suit, stood out like a sore thumb. I instinctively wanted to stay away from him. But before I could move, I heard a loud gasp from the crowd. Sophia accidentally bumped into Lucas, who was holding a glass of wine. Her brand-new custom-made dress was stained with red wine. Sophia screamed, slapped Lucas, and then threw herself into Anthony's arms. Anthony, this man is trying to harm me. Just now, he was by the pool, deliberately splashing wine on me and trying to push me into the pool. I barely managed to escape from his grasp. Well, Lucas was completely flustered. Come on, Sophia, be reasonable. I was standing there drinking peacefully. You were the one who bumped into me. Weren't you? You don't need to frame me like this. Don't you know there are surveillance cameras everywhere? Sophia's expression froze. She was about to say something. Isabella walked over and said, "But Mr. Lucas, I'm sorry. The surveillance camera by the pool broke recently and hasn't been fixed yet. However, I trust Miss Sophia's character. She wouldn't accuse you falsely." Lucas finally realized the seriousness of the situation. He looked at Anthony in the crowd with a pale face. The aura of a superior made Lucas's legs go weak. Anthony, I didn't do anything. I was just standing there drinking. I didn't even go near Miss Sophia. Anthony smiled dangerously. His voice was cold. So you're saying you didn't do anything, and it was Miss Sophia who framed you? Lucas swallowed hard. Then he lowered his head and made his decision. I'm sorry, Anthony, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been careless. Miss Sophia, please forgive me, I didn't mean it. But Anthony didn't let Lucas off the hook just because of his attitude. He smiled faintly and asked Sophia in his arms, "Which hand did he use to pour you the wine?" Sophia thought for a moment and replied, "Right hand, damn it." Soon, bodyguards came over and grabbed Lucas's right hand. Realizing what they were going to do, I couldn't bear it and shouted, "Don't!" Anthony's sharp gaze swept over me, making my whole body go numb. I forced myself to stand up and said, "I know there's a backup camera by the pool, and it's not broken." In the courtyard. It was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I knew I shouldn't have interfered. This young cousin and I weren't very close. But he had just seen my hand and told me he was working at the first hospital, and that my right hand was deformed. He asked me to go find him, and he would help me set it. How could I bear to let a young doctor who had just graduated lose his most important hand? Sophia's body trembled. Isabella said with a dark expression, "Sister, have you lost your mind? There's no backup surveillance camera in the courtyard." I squeezed my palms. There really is one in the surveillance room. If you don't believe me, come with me to see. I didn't know there was a backup surveillance camera. I just knew that the surveillance cameras at home weren't broken. Sophia and Isabella's tactics. I've experienced them too many times in the past. Anthony lifted his foot and suddenly walked in front of me. "Emily, you can't hide it anymore. Can you?" Anthony's words were as cold as he was. "You clearly said you wouldn't come bother me anymore. What are you doing now? Did you send your cousin to harm Sophia? Didn't you, you heartless woman?" He extended his snake-like, icy hand and gripped my neck tightly. He slowly tightened his grip. I saw the cold intent to kill in Anthony's eyes. I couldn't help but shiver. I desperately tried to explain. "No, Anthony, I wouldn't dare. Sophia is the apple of your eye. I've been hiding and avoiding her all this time. How could I dare to harm her?" But Anthony didn't believe me. "Do you think I'd believe you 3 years ago? You dared to betray me and harm Sophia behind my back. I don't believe you've changed. A whore will always be a whore. Is a slut always a slut? But what did I do? Does that make me a slut? Just because I once loved him fearlessly and passionately?" I suddenly felt utterly pointless. I raised my head and gave a nervous smile. "You're right. It's my fault that Sophia is in this situation. I deliberately told my cousin to kill your beloved. I wanted to push her into the water and drown her. Is that enough? Is that enough? Now, how are you going to avenge her? Kill me." Everyone around us dared not move. I looked at Anthony with tears streaming down my face, waiting for his final punishment. But he suddenly smiled. He released his grip on my neck. Then he took out a piece of paper and wiped his hands on it with disgust. "You better not have done it, Emily. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead." Anthony left. My father was scared half to death. "You wicked thing, how dare you step in?" "Who told you to step in, Emily? You're going to die. You're going to kill our entire family. Sophia is someone special to Anthony. She's his future wife. Don't even think about hitting your cousin. Even if you killed him, it wouldn't matter. Why did you have to get involved?" He didn't attend the rest of the party. He immediately returned to his study and called the Wilson family to say that the wedding date needed to be moved up so that I could be married off sooner. They agreed without hesitation. They said the sooner the better for the wedding and told me to fly over in 3 days. But who knew that things would take a turn for the worse? That night, as I lay in bed, I suddenly smelled a pungent odor. Before I could process what was happening, I fainted. When I came to, I found myself bound in a pitch-black warehouse. Several burly men surrounded me. As soon as I woke up, a long whip struck my body. They didn't say a word. They just beat me, once, again, and again. Each blow was accompanied by a whistling sound as it cut through the air. The pain made my entire body tremble. I desperately tried to call for help, but no one could save me. It felt like I had returned to the nightmare of my 3 years abroad. I had no one to rely on. There was no place to escape. Before I lost consciousness, I heard someone making a phone call. "Master, as you instructed, we have disciplined Miss Emily on behalf of Sophia." "Good. Does she know who did it?" The man glanced at me. "I don't know. Miss Emily has fainted." The voice on the other end relaxed. "All right, this settles things. Sophia won't blame her. Let her go." I was thrown back to the Johnson family's doorstep like a piece of ragged cloth. My father saw my condition. There was nothing left to explain. He called the Wilson family again. He couldn't even wait 3 days. He wanted to send Emily there immediately. The butler, who had watched me grow up, couldn't help but plead, "Master, Miss Emily's wounds are still bleeding. Let's wait until she's better before sending her to the Wilson family. If we send her there looking like this, how will she ever face the Wilson family? The Wilson family will look down on her so much. I don't care about any of that now." My father looked at me and said, "Emily, don't blame me. Why did you have to provoke the Smith family? You've ruined your own life. But you can't ruin your sister's too. From now on, be a good wife to the Wilson family. Whether you live or die, Consider me your father no more. After saying that, he pulled out a disownment agreement. He took my finger and pressed it onto the document. A tear slid down the corner of my eye. This is for the best. I don't want to acknowledge you as a father who betrayed your wife and couldn't protect your daughter. Giving Emily a little lesson was the last condition Sophia had set for Anthony. Anthony had it done. But for some reason, his heart felt empty and restless all night long. It was as if something was beyond his control. But at least it was over. From today onward, his entanglement with Sophia was finally resolved. Everyone said Sophia was his future wife. She was the apple of his eye. But only he knew that, in his lonely and obsessive first half of life, there was only one person who had ever truly entered his heart. That was Emily. She was like a little sun always shining on him. It was good. It was warm. It was beautiful. But she was too much. He had grown accustomed to loneliness. He had grown accustomed to stability. So 3 years ago, when Emily accidentally broke Sophia's necklace, the heirloom from her late mother, Sophia suggested taking the opportunity to teach her a lesson and temper her temper. Anthony agreed. Emily was indeed too noisy and spoiled. She needed to be disciplined, learn to behave. Otherwise, how could she become the matriarch of the Smith family? But unexpectedly, after returning, she said she wanted to leave. That was unacceptable. She had entangled him, she could only be his. As for Sophia, 5 years ago, she had accidentally saved his mother's life. At the time, he had told her he would grant her 3 wishes. One of them was to let her work at the Smith Group. Another was, due to family reasons, for him to pretend to be her fiancé for 3 years. And then came today. He had Emily tied up in the warehouse to vent his anger on Sophia, and to give her a lesson, to make her understand that a good woman shouldn't resort to such underhanded tactics. Now, the agreement between him and Sophia has expired. As compensation, he will tell Emily the truth. Then he will formally propose to her family. This time, hopefully, she will learn her lesson. Anthony posted a message to the Johnson family 3 days later. He was going to pay them a visit. He gave Emily a little lesson, although Sophia said it was just to scare her. Who let her go out for 3 years and still be so stubborn? Arguing with him in front of so many people, she's not being good at all. But these past 2 days, his heart has been in turmoil. At night when he sleeps, he keeps dreaming of her crying. She holds up her scarred hands and says to him, "Anthony, my hands really hurt." It's not a ploy. When he wakes up, his heart races. Lying in bed, he couldn't sleep anymore. He felt he had to see her with his own eyes to feel at ease. But when he sent the message, no one from the Johnson family was home. He called Mr. Johnson, who said the whole family had gone to Antarctica to see penguins. Anthony hesitated and asked when they would be back. Mr. Johnson said tremblingly, "Anthony, we're all on a cruise ship right now. The next port of call might be 3 days from now. As soon as we dock, we'll buy tickets and come back immediately." Anthony pressed down on his impatience. He replied indifferently, "All right." He had originally wanted to ask about Emily, but after thinking about it, if they could go on a trip, she should be fine. After hanging up, Isabella rushed over and asked, "Dad, why did Anthony call us? We've already married Emily off. Why won't he leave us alone?" Mr. Johnson took a deep drag on his cigarette. He had thought that by hiding in Antarctica, Anthony wouldn't bother us anymore, but he still came looking for us. "Don't worry. If he really causes trouble, I'll show him the severance agreement. If he has any issues, let him go find the Wilson family. It's none of our business." The Johnson family didn't return home until a week later. Even though they rushed back as quickly as they could, it still took several days to travel from Antarctica to their home. As soon as the Johnson family arrived home, Anthony, who had received the news, came over. He had been having nightmares every day. He had to see Emily immediately. But when he arrived at the Johnson family's house, everyone was in the living room to greet him, except for Emily. Could she still be angry with him? A surge of anger rose in Anthony's heart. The slightest trace of remorse he had felt for scolding her a few days ago had vanished. He had originally planned to talk to her properly and to formally propose marriage again. But now he suddenly didn't want to anymore. Sophia was right. Emily had a spoiled temperament. She needed a lesson. Last time, the punishment was too lenient. Now she dared to get angry and give him the cold shoulder so easily. Anthony frowned and asked, "Where is Emily?" Mr. Johnson's legs went weak. It was her again. He forced a smile and said, "Emily isn't here. Does Anthony need her for something?" Anthony sneered. "Tell her to come out." Mr. Johnson's legs grew even weaker. But she can't come out." Anthony's aura grew even colder. "If she can't come out, go tell her to get out here, dead or alive." The Johnson family members looked at each other in shock. Mr. Johnson's cold sweat began to pour down. Isabella was furious. Emily, that troublemaker, married a vegetable and still doesn't know when to stop. She even dared to provoke Anthony. Now she can't even enjoy her vacation. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but say, "Anthony, is it Emily, that slut, who provoked you and Miss Sophia again? Emily, that slut, deserves to die, but she's already married. Could you please spare us?" Mr. Johnson nodded and said, "Exactly. Anthony, to prevent her from bothering you and Miss Sophia. We've already sent that dead girl far away to the south, and I've cut all ties with Emily. If you don't believe me, look here. This is our divorce certificate. Rest assured, you'll never see that annoying girl in the U.S. again." Bang! Anthony's teacup shattered into pieces. Blood trickled down his fingertips. But Anthony didn't feel any pain. He stared at the Johnson family in disbelief. "When did I ever say I was annoyed by Emily? You said you married her off. How dare you marry her off?" Mr. Johnson was so scared his knees went weak, almost kneeling on the ground. But if you didn't hate her, why did you send her to Country X for 3 years without letting her come home? Country X isn't that England? She sent her abroad to cultivate her character. When did she say she'd send her to war-torn Country X? Isabella hurriedly added. "Yes, if you didn't dislike her. Why did you beat her so badly that night and throw her at our doorstep, nearly killing her? It's all because she offended Miss Sophia. And you wanted to take it out on her. No, that's not right." Anthony clenched his injured hand tightly. Something was wrong. Those nightmares, Emily's injured hand. All flooded back into his mind in an instant. He felt more terrified than he ever had before. It felt like he had done countless unforgivable things to the woman he loved most in the world. Why was this happening? He hadn't meant for it to be like this. "Someone come in." Anthony's voice was low and hoarse. "Go investigate Emily's past 3 years and what happened that night." Sophia said it was just a little lesson. Why did it turn into blood and chaos? "Where is Emily now? I must bring her back immediately." The subordinate glanced at his phone and stammered. Anthony, it might be too late. Miss Emily is getting married right now, and the Wilson family's comatose patient has suddenly woken up." Los Angeles. I was wearing my most beautiful wedding dress, sitting in the largest 5-star hotel in Los Angeles, waiting for my groom to arrive. Who could have imagined that I almost died that day? Anthony's lesson had reawakened the severe injuries in my body. If it weren't for the Wilson family's powerful medical team, I might never have woken up. In my dazed dreams, I once again dreamed of my life fleeing abroad. As soon as I stepped off the plane, my passport, ID, and money were snatched away. I then wandered through various underground venues. That was the darkest and most terrifying period of my life. On the day I was auctioned off like a piece of cargo, I saw the face of a fellow countryman. Among the crowd of people of various appearances, he stood out as exceptionally handsome. I instinctively reached out to him for help. He didn't seem to have much money either, but he still pulled out everything he had and bought me. He said he would take me home, and he truly took me away. However, the outside world was engulfed in war. He had also lost contact with his family. We wandered through various slums, huddling together for warmth. That was the happiest time of my life, though it was tough. But he was there, because there was hope. One day, he said he had contacted his family, and they would come to save us. But we never waited for them. A bomb once again struck the slum where we were staying. In the terrifying hail of bullets, he kept shielding me tightly. But suddenly, a bullet pierced his head. Then he collapsed before my eyes. I desperately covered the blood on his head, begging him not to leave me. With his last breath, he pushed me onto the escaping vehicle. "Emily, run away. Live on for both of us." I cried uncontrollably. "But without you, I can't live. Wilson, I love you." I cried out in my dream. A cold liquid fell onto my hand. Someone said, "Emily, I love you too. Is that true? Is there really someone in this world who loves me?" But the only 2 people who loved me in this world, my mother and Wilson, were both gone. I never imagined that my luck could be so terrible. Could things turn around? When I woke up, I realized my Wilson wasn't dead, and he was the very same man I had been told was in a vegetative state. Wilson looked at my scarred hands with pity. After we parted ways, my family found me. Due to brain injuries, I truly became a vegetative state patient for 3 years. I only recently regained consciousness. I was planning to announce it, but after discovering that my arranged marriage partner had been changed to you, I didn't want to announce it anymore. Emily, do you know, I discovered that the person I married was you, and I was so happy. I only regret not waking up sooner, causing my girl to suffer so much. Tears suddenly fell. It turns out that being cared for by someone else feels so good. I told him everything that had happened over the past few years, including my past with Anthony. Wilson held me tightly and repeated over and over, "It's all in the past, Emily. It's all in the past. Those who wronged you will not end well." Believe me, Wilson said he would compensate me for everything I had lost. First, he would arrange the most grand wedding ceremony for me. We booked a new hotel and a wedding dress. Everything was arranged to the highest standards. Wilson also gave me half the shares of his company. He said what was his was mine. My in-laws were also kind to me. They said I was a bringer of good fortune. As soon as I agreed to marry him, Wilson woke up. On the day of the wedding, the entire upper crust of Los Angeles was present. "Cousin, the master of ceremonies is calling. Let's take you out." I had severed all ties with the Johnson family. No one was there to escort me down the aisle. My cousin Lucas heard the news and rushed over. "Cousin, thank you for everything that day. No matter what happened between our elders, you will always be my sister." "All right." As I stepped out of the makeup room just a few steps away, I saw my groom. How lucky I am. In the ring exchange ceremony, the officiant asked, "Mr. Wilson, do you take Emily as your wife, to love and cherish her in sickness and in health, in poverty and in wealth, until death do you part?" Wilson looked at me and spoke firmly. "I do." "Emily, what about you?" I looked back at Wilson, who was gazing deeply into my eyes, and nodded. "I do, no, she doesn't." I turned around and saw Anthony rushing in. Covered in dust. I had never seen him, who was usually so dignified and reserved, looking so disheveled. It seemed like he had come from a long way off. Covered in dirt, his forehead was drenched in sweat. He looked utterly exhausted, his face worn with fatigue. But when he saw me, his eyes lit up. Then he turned to me and pleaded, "Emily, you don't want to, do you? Los Angeles and New York may be far apart, but there are many connections in this circle." Some of the guests quickly recognized Anthony's identity. "Isn't he the heir to the Smith family? What is he doing here? Is he here to steal the bride? But doesn't he have a fiancé? I think her name is Sophia." Anthony's eyes flashed with embarrassment. He hurriedly explained to me, "No, Emily, Sophia and I are engaged by agreement. She saved my mother, so she asked me to help her put on a show for 3 years." I shook my head. "It doesn't matter anymore. Anthony, I'm getting married." A flash of cruelty crossed Anthony's eyes. "Without my consent, who are you going to marry?" "Emily, you love me the most, don't you?" I held Wilson's hand tightly. "You said that was in the past. Now I love Wilson." "Impossible," Anthony said confidently. "Emily, don't lie to me. He's been in a coma for 3 years and has only been awake for a few days. How could you possibly fall in love with him, Emily? I know you're angry because I sent you to Country X and punished you because of Sophia, but that was all a misunderstanding. I clearly said I was sending you to Country X. And the thing with Sophia was just to scare you. It was Sophia who did it behind my back. I've already punished her. I just sent her to Country X too. All the suffering you endured, I promise she'll go through it all too. Please forgive me." I laughed at Anthony. "The wounds you've inflicted, can they be healed with just an apology?" "It's ridiculous. I won't forgive you, Anthony. You don't deserve it. The words he once gave me, I've given back to him." Anthony looked like his spine had been shattered. Bending over, Wilson's bodyguards surrounded us. Anthony looked at me with a pleading expression. "Stop this, Emily. You can punish me however you want. But please come home with me first." I looked at Anthony strangely and coldly said the cruel words, "Why would I go home with you? My home is here now. The person I will spend the rest of my life with is Wilson. What good did it do to send Sophia to Country X if you're so capable? Go there yourself. You know how I lived those past 3 years, Anthony, with all your connections." You should know by now. I lived a life worse than death there, and even now, my body is missing a kidney. All of this is because of you. You ask me why I love Wilson. Because in those 3 years, he was the one who saved me from the mud. If it weren't for him, I would have died there long ago. Now you know why I hate you so much and love him so much. Don't you? Do you think you deserve for me to continue loving you and go home with you? I didn't say a word, but Anthony's face turned pale in the end. He could barely stand. Hearing me speak of the suffering I endured, he couldn't bear it anymore and knelt down on the ground. The corners of his eyes were bloodshot. I'm sorry, Emily, I was wrong, but in this world, not all mistakes can be forgiven with an apology. Wilson looked at Anthony with contempt. He waved his hand, and the wedding continued. Anthony wanted to say something, but before he could speak, he was dragged away by Wilson's bodyguards. He looked at me with resentment, repeatedly calling my name, but I didn't even turn my head, just like he had done countless times before. The day after the wedding, I slept until late morning. Wilson brought breakfast and fed me before picking up his phone and saying he had been waiting outside. Should I go see him? On the monitor, Anthony was still kneeling outside. I shook my head and said indifferently, no, his kneeling isn't worth a penny. He doesn't deserve my forgiveness. But unexpectedly, Anthony still managed to see me. On the day Wilson and I returned to the old mansion for dinner, he went to the company first to sign some documents. I went ahead, but on the way there, several cars surrounded us. Then Anthony opened my car door. His eyes were filled with madness. Emily, I finally found you. Anthony took me back to a strange room in New York. Emily, can we live here from now on? I asked in disbelief. Are you going to lock me up? Anthony said painfully. I'm sorry, Emily. I really didn't know how to get close to you. I really had no other choice. I said coldly, is this how you apologize? You're just as disgusting as you always were. It was like a heavy blow from my words. Anthony curled up in pain. No, Emily. I really came here to apologize. I know words mean nothing, but now I want to give you back all the pain I've caused you. Last time, Sophia lied and said I ordered my men to beat you, right? So now you can beat me. Okay, Anthony placed a whip in my hand. Hit me, Emily. I want to feel more pain than you. The thick whip in my hand made me flinch. I knew it was the unhealed wound left in my heart. I looked at Anthony, my eyebrows twitching. Yes, maybe returning it would be enough. Crack, the whip struck down. Anthony clenched his hand tightly. It hurt so much. He looked at the surveillance footage, 108 lashes. How could his Emily endure this? Then came the second, third, and Anthony trembled all over from the pain, but he clenched his lips tightly, not uttering a word, until the 108th lash. It was all over. Anthony's back was completely beaten to a pulp, just like mine that day. He exhaled deeply, looked at me, and smiled. Emily, it's all back now. Can you forgive me now? I shook my head. No, and Anthony, you're such a bastard. When I loved you, you listened to Sophia's opinions and treated me however you wanted. Now that I don't love you anymore, you're begging for your life. What else could that be but despicable? Anthony's face grew paler with each word I spoke. He finally collapsed to his knees, but he forced a smile. It's okay, Emily. You can scold me. If you don't forgive me now, that's fine. We have plenty of time in the future. You can punish me however you want. A chill rose in my heart. Anthony, this madman, he really wants to lock me up. Aren't you afraid Wilson will come looking for you? Anthony looked at me with a sick expression. I'm not afraid. This is New York. They won't find us. You've disappointed me, Anthony. As soon as the words left my mouth, the front door was kicked open and Wilson appeared before me. Emily, I'm here. After 5 hours, Wilson had finally arrived. I threw myself into his arms, tears welling up in my eyes. Anthony looked at me in horror. Please don't leave me. But I didn't even glance at him. Or rather, I never wanted to see him again in my life. Wilson upgraded my security measures significantly. He also took advantage of Anthony's madness to secure several projects from the Smith family. Wilson said the Smith family couldn't hold a candle to the Wilson family anymore. From now on, I wouldn't have to worry about Anthony threatening me anymore. But Anthony didn't notice my hatred for him. He still wanted to do something desperate. He wanted me to forgive him. So he settled accounts with everyone who had wronged him, including the Johnson family and Isabella. On the day the Johnson family went bankrupt, Mr. Johnson called me with a thick face. He asked me to help his family, have Wilson invest in them, and introduce Isabella to a good match. I sent the divorce papers to the lawyer and told him to get lost. I blocked them all. Later, I heard that Anthony, that madman, had ruined them. Mr. Johnson and his stepmother were left with nothing, reduced to sweeping the streets. Isabella was still dreaming of a life in high society and found an old rich man to be his mistress. She was discovered by the main wife and pushed off the balcony. She ended up paralyzed. Mr. Johnson and his stepmother now not only have to sweep the streets but also take care of her, who is paralyzed in bed. I think their remaining years will be quite eventful. As for me, I looked at Wilson playing the piano beside me. Then I glanced at the sunlight outside the window. I think every day from now on will be just as eventful.